And we are recording on Thursday, October 2nd, 2025 at 10:01 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Bradley Birkenfeld, author of Lucifer's Banker, one of my favorite books. It's a fucking incredible book. And well, I was gonna start saying it, but I just figured we'd start recording. The no heads up, the gym in my apartment's closed. And as you know, in New England, it's starting to get freezing. And that's part of my morning routine, like OCD, part of my morning routine. And thinking I'm like, I'm a fit guy. I decided I'd walk up the stairs the entire apartment building. It's like 20 flights. I am such a cocky asshole. Oh my God. I thought I'm in good shape. I got up here and I was huffing him. I was like, good Lord in heaven. So there's a nice little humbling. But I guess in the kind of that same light of not quite humbling, but could you maybe just touch up for me as well as the audience that article you sent me about the UBS finally settling on something and how it was pretty much a slap in the face to everyone involved.
Well, it just goes without saying that large financial institutions, not just foreign ones but domestic ones, get away with this stuff, and it's been going on for so long. And what really happens, just to put it in perspective for your audience, when a bank generally pays a big fine, there's two problems. The first thing is, why were you breaking the law in the first place? That's one thing. But the next thing is they then attempt to write the fine off on their taxes. So the taxpayers pick up that tab directly, indirectly, whatever you want to say, who had nothing to do with this fraud or illegal transgression. The second is they're paying huge legal fees to these attorneys who used to maybe work at DOJ and are now just buddies with them and try and get a deal done. And the shareholders pay that bill, meaning less of a dividend or what have you. So two parties that had nothing to do with the crime get screwed: the taxpayer and the shareholder. That's the first thing. Second thing is the bank continues to do this behavior unrelenting. Just, I'll make 500 million. We'll get caught for the illegal business and we'll pay 200 million fine. Oh, that's wonderful. Pay 100 million in lawyers' fees and we walk with 200. So not only does that set a bad precedent, but there's no deterrent. Hence why it continues to happen. And until someone grows a set of balls over the DOJ to indict a CEO of a bank and put them in jail. And I can't say they didn't know what was going on. Either you're the CEO of the bank and you know what's going on, or you're there getting paid and you don't know what's going on, which means you shouldn't be the CEO. Which one is it? So I think a lot of people today don't really understand the complexity of what I just described to you between the fines and how they write them off and the huge legal fees and the shareholders eat to that bill. And then, of course, the bad behavior continues. So how many times have we continually seen bad behavior by JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, which is now UBS, Bank Paribas, Credit Agricole, HSBC, so on and so on and so forth. So that brings me to another point. If you think of James Comey, who has now been indicted, I don't know why it was such a short indictment of 1.5 pages, but that's another thing. But he left the FBI and he sat on the board of HSBC, a foreign bank. Why would you need to hire a guy from the FBI to do that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, go check him out. And then what's interesting is when good old Loretta Lynch was the attorney general, she finds HSBC for laundering Mexican drug cartel money, 1.9 billion. Nobody goes to jail. And you just find them 1.9 billion for laundering money. How convenient. Maybe she talked to Mr. Comey on that because he sat on the board of HSBC. So you see what I'm trying to say here. It happens time and time and time again. And they put politicians on the boards of their companies so they can talk to their buddies back in DC or FBI or whatever it might be. So I think your audience should really be fully aware of these problems. Now, coming to your initial question, which I'm getting to in a long
No,
about
no, go.
fashion,
No, I talk way too much. I love it when the guest talks. Please.
and it's there's a nexus here. It's not just sort of pie in the sky. So I testified in the UBS case in France, meaning the French authorities took a page from my book and went after UBS. But the problem there is it went on for so long, and the French justice system is a little bit archaic. So what happened is ultimately they were fined in the neighborhood of 4 billion euro. And then they bitched and moaned and complained and appealed and this and that. And then they said, well, we should really be lowering the fine. It shouldn't be that much money. When in fact, it should have been that much money because they, in fact, were breaking the law on um, working in France and aiding and abetting clients to go offshore. So in Switzerland, they had 40,000 accounts. Now, we had 19,000 on the American desk, so they had pretty much double. But the minimum account size is a million euros, and these accounts were much bigger than a million euros. So how is it that they come up with this song and dance and then got it reduced down to, I think it was 780 million euros from 4 billion? Well, once again, the French justice system capitulated. Someone got bought off, just like Hillary and Obama fixed the UBS case in America, and 300 million Americans got screwed. It's a fact. I can back it up. I'll debate anyone in the world at any time in any place. And you begin to realize that when you see this happening, there's a pattern again. It's just like breaking the law with these big banks. This pattern continues on and on and on. So my point to you is, why is it took them around 10 years to settle this case? And why did it go from 4 billion to less than a billion? And it just shows you that the French system towards banks, as well as the American system towards banks, is corrupted, totally corrupted.
The first thing I thought, you obviously, I think you and my dad would get along with New England sports, but from like what little I do know, you look at something like the salary cap, I think at the MLB, when I don't know, early 2000s when I was in like middle school, right? It's the whole like, well, you can't pay more than that. And it's like, well, what's the fine? And then how much are we making off a winning streak by having this team? Yeah, we'll pay whatever, a billion in market cap and we'll throw 20 million at the fine because we're going to sell out every seat for the next 3 years. It makes sense. And although, that on a much smaller scale, right, it's the MLB, it's not a global bank, but you can still kind of see it as a microcosm. And unless there's a real deterrence, nothing's really going to happen. I think an example of a real deterrence, and again, I'm on very shaky ground with sports history as opposed to something else, is let's say when they start testing for, steroids, right? And you'll get, booted or your titles will be stripped or that seems to have a little more teeth than something where it's, oh, we're going to fine you 10 million to the Yankees or the Red Sox. That means nothing. How could this ever turn into something? Because so, like, the first thing that pops into my mind is like, well, how does this happen? And then you find out Comey's on the board or something with defense contractors. And then you go, well, how did that get there? And to a degree, and this is not excusing it, but just as an observation, it seems to be this is a like a natural emergent system, like biological evolution. It's tit for tat, revolving door. You do this, I do that. It doesn't make it right, but it kind of makes sense to a degree. Like mafias have always formed. Warlords have always formed. There's always fiefdoms. All that to say, and normally I when I pose a question this big to someone, I'd say I don't mean to put it on your shoulders, but this is a rare example where you actually did deal with this.
Oh yeah.
How does this get any quote unquote teeth to it? Is it jail and a CEO? Is that it?
Well, here's a real underlying um, sentiment towards exposing this, and the DOJ is at fault, and they're the ones who should be criticized because they're useless. When I did what I did on the UBS case in America, they hated me because I made them look like the fools they are. Tax division of DOJ, a bunch of clowns, and they don't like it when someone has to educate them, and then they still screwed it up. So that's really what happened with the UBS case. They could have done this much, much more efficiently, but they were probably told by the upper ups, just fucking wash this through and get it over with. Yet I was throwing hand grenades every step of the way, going to the SEC, the IRS, the U.S. Senate, and so forth. Well, when I was on probation, I saw that France was going after UBS. So I hired an attorney in Paris, a tax attorney, flew him to Washington because I couldn't leave the country. I met with him and my attorneys, And we discussed about retaining him to help me on helping France go after UBS in France. He loved the idea. Flies over, had dinner in Georgetown, da 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 da. And then I hand him a dossier of documents. And this is in my book, of course. And he goes back and says, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Give it to the magistrate. You told me he used to work in your law firm." He says, "Yes." So he goes back, gives it to him, and he says, "Oh my gosh, he's so excited. He wants you in his chambers next week to testify." This is 2015, February. And I said, "Well, I can't because the knuckleheads at DOJ say my probation is so serious. We couldn't possibly take him off of it after doing more than half of it. Yeah, I might uncover another $1 billion crime that you guys fucked up." So I had my attorney go to the DOJ, Mark Daly, a real dunce, and say he wants to get off. He says, "Nope, too serious." Okay, fine. So then I told my attorney in Paris, they won't let me go, but I got a better idea. Have the magistrate issue me a French federal subpoena through the embassy in Washington. My attorney calls me the next day and says, "What the fuck is going on? I've got two guys with fucking holsters and a diplomatic pouch on my desk." I said, "Open it up, see what's inside." He goes, "You got to be in Paris next week." I said, "Now listen carefully. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. You call that jackass over at Mark Daly at the DOJ, and if he doesn't let me on the next flight to Paris to help an ally in a criminal case that I started, I want you to sue him and the DOJ for obstruction of justice and $1 billion in damages."
That's so
I was,
fucking, it's so gangster.
it is. And it's just, these guys are like fucking kindergarten kids. Like, really? I'm going to help an ally in a criminal case that I started, and you don't want me to go?
But I kind of said it jokingly, but as soon as I said the words, I realized that's gangster, and then well, they're gangster. That's how you have to deal with it.
That's it. And you
You
just
have
have
to
to,
be a gangster back.
I checkmated him. Yeah. Good luck. Try me. I'll go into court and I'll sue you for obstruction of justice. Man, that would have been so much fun. I actually would have wished they blocked me so I could have done that. But anyways, so I went to Paris and testified, and then I came back, and then like a month later, I had to go back because UBS was allowed to cross-examine me, and that was a whole interesting scenario. And they made me issue another federal subpoena. I mean, these guys are something else. So it just shows you how absolutely dysfunctional, corrupt, and incompetent the DOJ is. Absolutely, through and through. You wonder why all these crimes go unpunished. You wonder why things like 9/11 happened because, oh, I couldn't get the credit. So I said, "Fuck you, Tom. I'm doing this case on my own. So I get the credit so I can put it on my resume, blah, blah, blah." That's the problem with these civil servants. They are so keen on trying to get it all for them so they can take the credit. And generally, a lot of times, they're not smart enough to solve the problem. I said to them, I said, "You guys fucked up this case royally. Where have you been for the last 50 years? They start yelling at me. I said, "Don't yell at me. I'm not your wife. Don't yell at me. Why don't you do your job?" So it really goes to the point, and wives aside, I'm just joking. The thing here is that these are serious crimes. And the last time I checked, FBI DOJ's job was to enforce those. But time and time and time again, you see an investigation that falls flat on its face because they're either lazy pieces of shit, that's A, B, incompetent, stupid clowns, and C, I just want to get it over with so I can say I got a case done without doing the hard work. This is the big problem in DOJ, FBI. Huge problem. Because I mean, show me a case that really said, "Wow, that was a great prosecution. They got a fine. The taxpayer was made whole. Blah blah blah. People went to jail because they deserved to." I think the last time we saw that was Enron,
Hmm.
and everyone panicked because then it fucked up. Arthur Anderson went under, and people said, "Oh, maybe we overstepped our bounds." No, Arthur Anderson should have gone under. Fuck them. They're the ones who were fucking promoting this bullshit with Enron, this phony accounting crap, and so on and so forth. Yes, some innocent people lost their jobs. That's unfortunate. That's why you got to clean up the system. And you can't let it perpetuate. Because if you let it perpetuate, that means you're condoning it. If you condone it, that means you're part of a crime. It's called aiding and abetting. So this is really where you see the steps I just laid out for you, and it metastasizes. And when it does that, it becomes bigger than you, meaning it can just overtake a situation and then like too big to fail.
Hmm.
Well, why is it too big to fail? because you assholes allowed it. And you didn't think about the consequences to the taxpayer, to the retail banking customers who are just small time people just trying to, start a business or run their home or whatever the hell it is. So I think this is where these banks, I mean, Jamie Dimon and all these assholes, these CEOs are so pompous. And I, quite frankly, I wish I was in charge of DOJ because I'd come after these guys so hard, and I'd say, "I'm sorry, you're part of the firm, and you knew what was going on, so you're going to jail."
In terms of how to take these things on, it does seem that they're not a monolith. It can seem like it's a monolith. It's not always a monolith. And that not being a monolith doesn't necessarily mean it's good, but it tends to be smaller factions and fiefdoms to where you can get things. Like you eventually got justice, or even in the example of, you're going to stop me from helping an ally. Those are ways in which you can kind of, I don't know, Chinese finger trap it to where it's like, oh, it's because it's not one overarching fall in line monolith. We just go the elite. You can find, back doors and go, well, this is going to look bad. You don't want me to help France. And the people in France, maybe they're not in bed with the dude at UBS. So they look at it and they're like, yeah, no, we want to do this. It seems like it seems to be a mixture of you have to be gangster back. These people are, for lack of a better phrase, they're not nice. But you also can't be stupid. You can't brute force it. You can't just, jump out of the trench and run across no man's land. You do have to be cerebral about it. And that's, again, for everybody listening, I always plug books, but I legitimately love your book, Lucifer's Banker. That's kind of what you did by holding on to evidence.
Yep.
I guess yeah.
Yeah. No, no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say the impetus, or not maybe the impetus, but I guess the fulcrum of it. It's like, so then how does this happen? How did this happen? I think it comes down to, and I don't mean to sound like some hallmarky bullshit, but it's like, do you have the moral or ethical backbone? Is it how you were raised? Is it a belief in God? Is it, and not even you in particular, but also
Right.
you in
Right. Right.
particular, someone somewhere has to make these decisions. So it's like, well, how come they didn't prosecute this? Well, they're either in on the take, or it's some dude who's climbing the ladder at the FBI and he's like, why, if I have 5 cases under me, I can be the deputy assistant to the whatever. And it's like, that's not necessarily evil. It's more the banality of evil. Somewhere along the line, though, the motive, the profit incentive, the gravitational pull has to, at its core, it has to be somewhat pure. It has to be, this is wrong, or you're hurting, underprivileged people, or you're taking advantage of this. Somewhere, it don't, maybe it's just the majesty of, of God's actions, but it seems like you do have to have a somewhat of a pure motive for it to come out pure, which, isn't exactly rocket science, but it almost seems like it has to be that. Like your heart has to, like the Grinch, his heart grew 3 times. It's like you almost have to. Is it God? Is it quantum physics? Is it whatever? It almost seems like you have to be pure for purity to happen. If any, I don't know if that
Well,
makes sense.
well, I think what you really need is a moral compass that's on track. It's been calibrated properly. And again, as I say, I'm not really concerned about the boyfriend who breaks up with his girlfriend. He tries to turn her in for not filing 5 grand in taxes. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about big corporate fraud that affects a lot of people: shareholders, employees, clients, the government, blah, blah, blah. So I think what we have to understand is sometimes, well, people are certainly lazy. Sometimes people like to take shortcuts. And law enforcement really has never gotten teeth, in my opinion. I mean, they say they are. I mean, enough of the stories. You hear this time and time again. Why do we sit here today and we still don't know who tried to kill President Donald Trump? How's that possible? How is that fucking possible? If I was him, I would stop the bus and say everything is on hold until we find out who the hell was behind this and what was going on. I'll put 1,000. I'll put 10,000 people on. I don't care. I want to know who tried to kill me. Why? Because maybe it might happen again.
Hmm.
And maybe there's other bad elements out there that were aiding and abetting these assholes. So I think it is absolutely preposterous that I even have to ask this question to you on your show
It
right
is.
now. And I'm sort of getting off track from the financial
No,
stuff, but
no, 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 no,
it's
no.
a
It's on track. It's
right.
yeah.
The corruption and incompetence and cover ups and so forth. So I mean, think about that. That was what? That was in was it
July 13th,
February?
July 13th,
Oh, it
20
was July 13th. That's right,
July
not
of last
February.
year, July 13th, 2025.
Yeah, so it's over a year. Really?
Uh,
When RFK got killed in LA in 1968, they had more investigations. Sadly, John F. Kennedy got killed. Certainly, it was a CIA operation with the mob. Anyone who thinks it was Lee Harvey Oswald better go and check their pulse because they're out of their mind. And we sit here today, and then you had a Looney Tune try and go after him down at Mar-a-Lago. I think he was just found guilty, wasn't it? He defended himself.
yeah, Ryan Ruth. Yeah, he tried to
Ruth, yeah.
stab himself in the court.
Oh,
I don't know
did
if
he?
you
I didn't
saw. Yeah,
hear
he
that.
when he got the guilty charge, he took a pen and tried to stab himself, but it was like a prison safe pen, so it didn't do anything.
Yeah,
Fucking idiot.
dope. Yeah, brains optional with that model. But so I mean, okay, he's a real nut job, okay, but he still should be prosecuted for that. But the initial one in July, as you say, July 13th. So I don't recall the date. I try not to remember dates when presidents get shot.
No,
Uh,
I just have I have it's I have no control over it. I have a crazy memory.
okay, no, and that's a good thing. But I mean, think, Tom, we're sitting here and we still. I mean, can you tell me who you think did it, in your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion, it was absolutely an inside job to get it done. And it's just like you said about the CEOs. It's no explanation is proper. It's either what I don't believe, it was staged. I don't think that. It was okay, they just can't find out who did it. Well, that's concerning that our
Yeah,
apparatus can't figure that out. It's that there was a stand down order, which is concerning because that's a la CIA or RFK. That it's okay, you took out your own guy. It's Trump has given the order. He gave it on, let's say January 20th, and it's not going through. That's not good. That means the president doesn't really control everything. It means people don't have to follow. Or,
or ignore him, or
yeah,
do the opposite of what he says.
or they are searching into it, but I don't. Trump's not. I like Trump. He's not exactly a humble guy. He would have come out of me. Who knows? Maybe he's taking it very. Maybe it was so serious that they are looking into it. That's pie in the sky, and it makes me. I want to believe it, but no. There's no good answer. It's either the guy got away, we can't find out, or it's that our own government did it, or it's that there is no good answer.
Is he a single gunman? Which I doubt.
I mean,
Did
if
he do
that's
it
the case, that's
himself?
a problem.
Yeah.
If you can get that close to
And,
the president, that's a problem.
and you got six phones and you're traveling all over the place. Where do you get the money? How are you doing this? What's going on? I
Yeah.
mean, the whole thing is just a mishmash of shit. So that's very troubling right now because we sit here over a year later and we still don't know what the fuck's going on. So if it was in fact a bigger group or a cabal or whatever you want to call it, CIA this or that,
Sure.
and we know Iran has got its bad intentions for the president and Americans in general. Um, what if they come with 30 guys the next time?
Well, not only that, there's an important impetus to go. If you can get away with putting a bullet through the president's ear, then that shows that not only is that possible, if I can lift a 50-pound dumbbell, I can lift a 10-pound dumbbell. If you can do that to the president and then there's no repercussions, what can you do to the financial system? If we don't care
What?
about that,
Yep.
hell, you can get away with anything.
Well, and this brings me to my next point, and it's on point with respect to what we're talking about. So this illegal immigrant who was the superintendent of schools in Iowa. I still can't believe that this is a story. It's absolutely
I didn't hear
unfathomable how
about
this
this.
happened.
Wait, what
Oh,
is
you didn't
this?
hear about this?
Oh,
Oh my God! It's a black gentleman from Guyana came to this country illegal as a student visa back in '99 and just stayed. Has a couple of DWIs and speeding charges.
oh, good.
Got caught with a gun. That's great. Illegal immigrant. You can't have a gun. And then he was the superintendent of the public schools in Iowa. ICE went to arrest him last week, and he ran. Had a knife, a Glock with a full clip, which is illegal, and it finds out that some of the shit on his resume that they hired him never existed or whatever. But he then was registered voter in Maryland,
Oh,
and then Maryland came back and says, "Well, we saw that he never really voted." That's not the point. It's going into what you just said. The very fact that he was allowed to register, how many other clowns like this have registered and have voted, and maybe multiple states or multiple times? So, again, getting to the point of if you don't fucking nip it at the bud, that someone tried to kill the president of the United. Well, he wasn't president then, but he was a former president. Let's give
still, it's
give the guy
former
credit.
president and presidential candidate. Both of those are qualifiers for you should not be able to get anywhere near them.
You should be fucking within a fucking New York mile, and you get away with this scenario that whatever the people did. But then you jump back to this other thing with a black gentleman, not racist. It just happens to be black. He came from Guyana. I came on a student visa and then stayed illegally and broke several laws and then registered to vote. He was registered to vote in Maryland. And then Maryland was like, well, he's never, we can't give up personal information. He never really voted. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. That's not the point. How many other people fall into that category? So it's talking about getting away with a crime or a transgression or unethical behavior, what have you, that needs to be stopped.
It again falls into the flow chart of incompetence or malice. So it's like if you had said he came here on a student visa in 99 and he was, you know, working as a day laborer in suburban Atlanta, like right, everyone knew every landscaper was an illegal immigrant. It's just what it was.
Sure.
Be less concerned about that. Be like, yeah, dude, smart, kept his head down, paid in cash.
Right.
He became the superintendent.
Of
That
all the
that's
public schools in Iowa.
that's so again, that's either incompetence on our system or it's maliciousness. And not only that, if you can come in and rise to that situation, can you get a good job at Northrop Grumman and maybe you're from, I don't know, Shanghai?
Or can you lie on mortgage applications like Mr. Schiff and Letitia James? And get away with it. And then you've got this bitch Cook who is on the Federal Board of Governors, Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And the judge or the Supreme Court reinstated, says she can stay there. Stay there. She says, well, I didn't do it when I was there. I did it before breaking the law. Oh, that's nice. That means you were not qualified when you were appointed to that position. So you never should have been in that position. And that's why you should be removed immediately. Period. Just like Letitia James pulled her fucking nonsense. And Omar, this congresswoman who married her
Yeah,
brother to get in the
yeah.
country. Well, why hasn't she been prosecuted? Why? What the fuck are they doing? That is illegal, and she should be prosecuted. I'm dumbfounded. So, what's happening, in my opinion, at least for me, I'm starting to lose faith in a Trump DOJ. Because if you say, well, we don't know who tried to kill him, we're still investigating. Well, how much longer is it going to take? Maybe they'll take another shot at him. You don't know. I don't know. And I don't want that to happen. But I want to find out who the hell was behind this. And if we keep delaying and come up with non-answers and all these other things that we don't know about, Fauci, for instance, lied in Congress, covered it up. The memos have come out now. 275 undercover FBI agents at January 6th. Really? That's wonderful. That's against the law. Why isn't Christopher Wray's fat ass in Congress testifying now under oath and say, what the hell's going on here? Because you're responsible. And he should be held accountable. And he should be indicted because he lied to Congress. But, I just sit back and I say, oh, okay, well, that's great. Nothing's going to be done. That's fabulous. I'm not saying that everyone's head should be chopped off. I'm not saying this, but the rule of law should be obeyed, especially by the head of the FBI, a congressperson or senator. And we're not seeing it, Tom, are we? We're not. We're not seeing it, are we?
No, absolutely not. And I'm just like zooming out entirely.
Right.
It's like this isn't you and I being Boy Scouts and be like, you broke the like. Yeah, I also drive 10 over the speed limit. Like I get okay. there's give
You
and
might
take.
have had a beer when you shouldn't have and drove home. Fine.
I get it.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it at this scale and at the duration it's been going on for decades, it's remove emotion from it, remove right and wrong, and just look at it as a system, a plant growing, an animal, or whatever, a building being constructed. It is moving to a point to where the corruption is so pervasive that it's going to start rot or not start. It's the rot will be there's always corruption, there's always rot, but hopefully it's balanced out by enough people doing the right thing and being good people, blah blah blah. The rot itself will bring down the structure. And the people that are at the very top, a Bezos, a Musk, or whatever, at a certain point, they got to be looking at it, and not even because they're good people or not good people. What just as these single-minded, half trillionaires, they got to start looking at the U.S. as their golden goose and being like, whoa, 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 whoa. We can't let this thing completely implode. So it's either that you just let it run and it's an empire that implodes and then a new one arises, and that seems to be kind of like the cyclical nature of humanity. Or, and I'm again more shaky on this part of history, there are times where you can have a vicious snapback and everything gets put in line. If it's going to be done, it's we're putting off a bill and paying interest on the interest on the interest. I mean, we're doing that literally, but metaphorically on dealing with the rot and the corruption. It's at a point now where whatever does happen can no longer be cleaned up as little things here and there. It's going to be so in your face that it's going to be arresting directors of the FBI. It's going to be pulling in, former heads of the NSA and, names you see, Jamie Dimon, Lloyd Blankfein, or whatever, or I think Robert Gates is dead, but, a Dick Cheney. We're at a point now where the only cure is, you've waited long enough, the infection got worse. We can't give you penicillin anymore. Now we have to remove your leg. Well, I don't
Yeah.
want to remove my leg. You don't have to, but you'll die. So it's which one do you want? So it's at a point now where it's like the only solution, it's going to be something that is going to appear radical. And it's normally you wouldn't want to do that if you're the president because you go, can we kick it down the can? We can kick the can down the road 5 years, 8 years. Okay, yeah, do that. And you can do that for some shit, North Korea, whatever. You're at a point now though where whatever cure you do is going to appear wildly unpopular. And I want to believe something, it's his second term. He's in his 80s. He's a billionaire. They tried to kill him. It's like, dude, what more do you have? Like, go down as a gangster. But I
And
don't,
get
don't
some and
know.
get some answers. I mean, not just for him, obviously, but for his family, for his constituents, for his cabinet, for everyone, for even Democrats. Because if you can do that to a guy in broad daylight, that is not a very comfortable feeling. In the United States, everyone looks up to the United States and say, "What? You got guys shooting at the president? You don't know who did it? You got to be kidding me!" So, I think these are the things that really are shocking. I'm shocked that we sit here and say, "Oh, geez, well, Mr. Epstein, hung himself, and the guards were having a cigarette, both of them at the same time, and the cameras happened to go down at the same time." What a coincidence! How many times has that happened? Why aren't those assholes in jail? So then you got Ghislaine Maxwell who's sitting in jail, and we're thinking like, what's going on here? Does she have stuff on Republicans and Democrats? I'm sure she does. But let's get to the bottom of this damn thing rather than keep kicking the can around and saying, "Oh, there's this investigation and we're going to uncover this." Stop the talk and give us action.
At a certain point, you almost wonder if, like, and this is why I would give maybe some credence to this idea as it's not, do the right thing, which is that's how I try to live my life. That's how you have lived your life. But I also understand that it's not always the most realistic option.
Yeah.
You almost wonder if just some like, some three-star generals in some bunker somewhere that are wargaming and stuff, like you almost look at it like regardless of their political affiliation, just these cold war game guys. Are they looking at this and going, if the United States falls, there will be a power vacuum, and that's never good in human history. Like at a certain point, you almost wonder if other nations are like, hey, regardless if I like America or not, whatever, Denmark, you got to wonder if they're like, hey, you guys can't implode because nature abhors a vacuum, and the other two big ones right now are China and Russia. Like regardless of America's rotting from financial corruption or an asteroid's coming to America, at a certain point you almost wonder if there is like a group incentive to not let the current hegemon go under. I,
So
I'm
does that then give you a mandate to do some of these things that are really illegal, unethical, and bad?
No, 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 no. What I'm saying is, how do you clean it up? I'm not saying it's you have a blank check to go do this shit. What I'm saying is
No, no, I hear you, but it does it also send a message to the other side saying, well,
they
they
know they
can't,
can't. Yeah,
so they're
America's too
not going
big
to
to
come.
fail.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, no, no, no. So that's not what I was getting at. I wasn't saying like
No,
we
but
allow it. I'm looking at it from like the position of, and just don't even say the name Trump because that's such like a lightning. Just president.
yeah,
Does that give them an impetus to go? It has to be cleaned up. It's I don't care if
well,
they're left or right. Like you got to start arresting these people because the system's going to go down, and then that's going to result in global instability and very likely thermonuclear war. You almost wonder if like some AI is looking at that and going, I don't care if they're a Republican or Democrat.
it's
That
not
has
good.
to go. That has to go. That
Yeah.
has. It's just looking at it like a cold, like a Jenga tower. Like you're pulling out too many pieces.
I mean, can you imagine what would have happened if, hypothetically, if Biden was killed? Then Kamala becomes president. I mean, just absolute mayhem. And I'm not wishing it. I'm just saying, I'm like,
Yeah.
what would have happened there? Well, that would have been a weird transfer of power, obviously, because she's totally unqualified. Number one. Number two, um, would people be shedding a tear for Biden dying? Yeah, there's certainly a lot of people like this
I
guy, but
I didn't like him. I would, man. There's
oh,
nothing.
I didn't like the guy. I
But
give
I
a
would.
shit.
But I
I think
wouldn't.
it's
I wouldn't cheer it on or anything.
no,
It's.
I wouldn't cheer it on, but I wouldn't be like, you know,
I wouldn't be
what would
weeping in the streets. But I guess I'm looking
right?
at the Charlie Kirk stuff and just how people cheered. It just seems
It's
so
crazy.
inhuman. I wouldn't. If
But
Biden
that
got shot, I would. Yeah, I'd be like, dude, this is not good for the country.
it's not yeah, it's not good for the presidency. It's not good for politics. It's not good for mainstream understanding of others.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's not shoot each other. It's not the OK corral. And now this Charlie Kirk thing. So again, we come back and it's from what it looks like, or is it just being portrayed that way that this kid is just some left wing nut job and he didn't like him and he wanted to kill him? Is that the case, or is there something deeper here that I'm missing?
I think there's something deeper. Um,
So he didn't act alone, in your opinion.
I don't believe so. And the first thing and more importantly, it's the next day, I could have on you and talk about financial stuff because you've got the bona fides. The next day I had on my buddy Dale, former Delta Force. His first question was like, you need very minimal security to offset that. Um, my first thought was, uh, you know, tertia optio. It's called the third option. The first option is diplomacy. The second option is outright war. The third option is tertia optio. That's the whole idea of CIA, black ops, plausible deniability to where it cannot be found out no matter what. I was thinking that if I were an enemy of the United States, who is the most influential person I could kill that if the black op somehow got found out, we didn't, dot our I's, what would not result in war? Now, ideally, it doesn't get found out no matter what, but if it did, worst case scenario, you can't kill a senator, you can't kill a vice president. I don't think you could kill a Bezos or a Musk. I think that would, and if we found out, I think that would result in military action. I think Charlie Kirk, and so what's the reason to do this? If you wanted to push the U.S. further into blue on blue crisis, civil war, I think Charlie Kirk or like maybe Joe Rogan, those are probably the highest level people you could kill that are just below the threshold where the US would start bombing you. If it's a senator or a, Department of State, whatever, there's going to be military action.
Yeah.
If it's Rogan, if they kill me, no, there's going to be no war, but there's also not a whole lot of effect from killing me. If you're an external country and you just want to do this. Charlie Kirk, young, well-spoken, clean-cut guy, kind of conservative voice, and then who are we gonna have kill him? A radical, furry. If I'm an external nation, oh, this is perfect. That's just how I look at it. It could also
Well,
just be natural. I have no idea.
it comes as a surprise to me that a guy can get that close with a 30 six and not be seen. 30 six is a big rifle. I've
Yeah,
shot a 30 six, and
yeah,
I mean, it's not like it's a purse. I mean, this is a big item, and you got to get set up.
yeah,
You don't just like lay down and like take a quick shot. I mean,
yeah.
man, and what? Nobody saw him?
Devil's advocate. This is what I said initially. He's not the president. There is a limit to, how much security you can afford. I think this at Turning Point USA brought in like 85 or 90 million a year. Okay. And as my buddy Dale, the Delta Force guy, pointed out, Charlie Kirk is the brand. You can't replace, he's not a CEO. He's the brand. You can't replace Joe Rogan. He's the brand.
Yep.
Then just as a financial incentive, you wouldn't want anything to happen. And Dale also said, I'll send you some of the episodes. He's like, I've been watching Charlie Kirk for a while, and Dale being Dale, he used to do president for H.W. Bush. He was like, I thought their security was actually pretty good. My kind of devil's advocate position is this wasn't necessarily something new. Charlie Kirk, as long as I've known of his existence, he's always kind of going on college campuses, and he's not the president. Like he can have security. He doesn't have presidential security. This is what, I don't know, the 500th campus he's spoken on.
Yeah.
There might be some lull and not lull or complacency. It's like, yeah, people don't like Charlie Kirk, but we just have to kind of keep the crowd back to make sure some crazy bitch doesn't come running up.
Yep.
Ultimately, he's not the president, and he's done this a zillion times at a zillion college campuses. I would imagine to a degree, you probably do get a little complacent or thinking that it's not going to happen. It's
How does a guy with a 30 six get not seen?
No, I'm with you.
I,
I'm with you. I
right?
have to play devil's
And
advocate for
again,
my own sanity. I have to,
no, that's fine. But then, like, you come into a place and it's crowded. There's people coming and going
yeah,
because it's a big event. But you got to set up. If you've ever shot in a rifle, I'm sure you
yeah,
have, and I've done it many times in military school and so forth,
yeah.
is you need some time to get your settings and the wind and this or that, or the sun's in your eyes or whatever. But when you got this many people around, nobody saw this guy setting up.
Oh, I'm with you. The whole devil's
That's
advocate
what I
thing I'm
find
saying,
odd.
I don't believe that. I'm just playing
What
devil's
thing?
advocate. What?
What they said? The thing
No,
was,
no, no. I said when I pose devil's advocate ideas just so that just to play all sides. I don't necessarily
yeah,
believe everything I just said. I just that's
right.
yeah. You're not running up with a pistol and shooting him. That's different.
No,
No,
and
and
this is a big rifle
well, that's what
in
Dale
broad
said.
day.
Apparently, it was like taken apart. Dale goes, "That's not a." He goes, "An AR-15." I think he said there's two or three pins. You take apart. He goes, 30 out. The Mauser he was using. He said that, and again, this is a Delta Force guy. He goes, that requires a workbench vise.
Yeah,
It's not. It's not
it's
pins.
it's not IKEA where you just break it down. I mean,
So where was the vise? Or and they can't find it. Well, that tells me the story's horseshit.
exactly. And so once again, we're back to square one. Trump, Charlie Kirk,
If you don't,
what the fuck?
if you didn't nip it in the bud, it's going to happen again.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And I mean, do we have to put these guys in bubbles? No, I don't think we have to go to that extent. But what we do have to do is find out who was behind it, find out the motivation and the funding.
Yeah, I think it's less of like put them in a bubble and more of like find everyone involved and make a fucking example. Find
Dude,
everyone involved. You're all going to, make an example. Find the people who are involved with the Trump thing, the people involved. Send them to Guantanamo. Say this
yeah,
is a threat to national security. This exceeds state law. You'll get a
absolutely.
lot of people who will start going,
In
ooh,
in my library, I love history, and one of the things I have a lot of presidential documents, and one of them in particular, it's interesting. It's the wanted poster for the three people responsible for Abraham Lincoln's death, murder. That was Harold, Booth, and Surratt. And all three, I have the original wanted poster. Oh, it's unbelievable. They offered $200,000. That's like $40 million today.
I have to look up the inflation calculator.
Well, yeah, it's 200 grand they offered, and these three were caught ultimately because everyone and their mother was after them. I mean, the country went ballistic. So I'm just saying, God forbid if the president had been killed on that day, but I don't know what would have happened. But I am glad it didn't happen, obviously. But can you imagine what it must have been like in 1863 to
That'd
go
be
to have
one. That would be 1.86 billion. Or no, 1 point. No, 200,000 would be 1.86 billion. Dude,
That's what I got the original poster. It's in my library, and it's such a cool poster because the first edition there was three photo spots and they were empty because they didn't have photos at the time when they first printed it, and then like 2 hours later they got these pictures or facsimiles thereof, and put them in. Mine has the photos, which are not raw photos, but facsimiles, and it is such a cool poster. But anyways, what I'm saying is that was in 1863. That was over 150 years ago. So I think what I'm saying also here is that the country united, even though we just finished the Civil War, around getting these guys, and they hung them in public. Maybe we should have public hangings. I don't know. Set a deterrent. Maybe no one cares. People say it's cruel and unusual. How's it cruel and unusual when someone goes and murders someone else, but you go to hang them? That's cruel and unusual. I never understood that. But
there's
anyways, it's crazy,
there's
And now you got Trump arguing for the death penalty for this clown that killed this Ukrainian girl on the train. Now, obviously, there's some mental health issues here, but they went to the people and said, we need help to get this guy locked up, and no one paid attention, or judges let these guys out early, or didn't even have them post bail. Maybe then the judge should be held accountable in something like that, where you're knowingly letting these people go when they should be incarcerated.
no, I think they should seek the death penalty. Put the ball in the smaller people's court to where they go, hey, if you really truly care about this guy's mental health, then you will now see this precedent that if you keep letting them go, it eventually is going to result in their death.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do something.
I mean, the logic makes no sense because we feel unfortunate for people with mental health, and we should address that. We
No,
should address that. But when they commit violent crimes, when it could have been prevented,
and that's where it comes down. I have a ton of empathy for mental health. I lost my older sibling to suicide 11 years ago. I'm very like you don't have to preach that to me.
right?
There's some quote, I always butcher it, but I think it's like mercy to the guilty is like neglect to the innocent, meaning that it's some dude, let's say you're 21, you get drunk and you drive home and you T-bone a van and you kill a family and you're full of regret and they go, you're doing life in prison. You might go like, dude, he's not a bad guy. He fucked up. And it's like, no, you might be right. Maybe he's not a bad guy. But if we don't do this, how many innocent
Yeah,
families, how many guys are gonna, get home and realize that their wife and three kids were killed? That's not fair to that guy. So although
yeah,
you could say this dude's not bad, he just got a little drunk, sure, but it's zero sum. You either show mercy to him or you show mercy to the innocent. You have to show mercy to the innocent. So mental health is real. You have to show mercy to just the random person on the subway. You
yeah.
can't you have someone has to be punished, and it's just what it is. And it's
I mean, remember we had the Marine that chokeholded that guy and he died.
hmm
But the guy was threatening people. Everyone said it. I mean, the very fact they even wanted to try and prosecute him was ludicrous.
correct.
Then you got this guy on the thing and attacks an innocent young Ukrainian girl. It's such a sad story and kills her. I mean, you know, at some point you've got to rectify these, like you said. You have to rectify these acts because you just cannot let them go unpunished.
And if they go unpunished, it will, could we draw a direct line between Trump and Kirk? I think loosely, yeah.
Yes.
I think loosely, yes. You didn't go hit him with the force of God, and you
And
have
you
to do
didn't
that.
find out who did it. You still don't know. So some young kid says, "Yeah, I'm a tough guy. I can do this." Well, you're not so tough now, are you? But I think that's the point. There is no deterrent, and it sets a bad precedent. Move your ass, raise heaven and earth, and go after to find out who was behind these and report it to the public. Otherwise, the public's like, I'm scratching my head saying, no, Tom, I don't know what the hell's going on there. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up.
And then what will eventually happen? is you either have extrajudicial justice, dads going out and finding the guy that raped their kid and killing
Yeah,
them, or you will have something at, let's say, at a bigger level, like the financial system. You'll have that Luigi guy go and kill a CEO. Now,
just
this
because he
isn't,
doesn't like his policies.
and let's find an important delineation. I heard a great quote that said the French Revolution was not, it started but did not finish principled, meaning extrajudicial justice. Dad finds the guy that raped his, daughter and kills him. Hey, yeah, it's pretty principled. He did what needed to be done. What you will start to have at these larger institutions is you might have a CEO who might be innocent and he gets killed. Well, now they're going to seek justice on the guy that killed them. So it's if you don't do it in a civil and humane or that separates us from animals, we will revert to our animalistic tendencies, and that will not always be principled.
It won't be. And I think what will happen is people will take the law into their own hands, which is very dangerous as well. I
Correct.
understand it because if they see nothing's being done, they're going to take action. Look, if someone killed one of my family members, if the government didn't do something,
I'd
yeah,
fucking
I'd take
kill him.
action.
Yeah,
Well, I'd take action.
why not?
And I think the problem we have in America is law enforcement is weak. Relatively speaking, we've hired some this DEI bullshit and woke crap. Time to get people in it, like Trump said, military has to get in shape. I mean, how can you have a fat guy walking around who's a general? I mean, what kind of message does that send? Stop eating and go work out, you fat bastard.
With people taking the law into their own hands, what you do have is, let's say somebody killed one of your family members and you go try to kill them. Maybe you
If
kill that.
law enforcement doesn't do
Yeah,
anything,
no, sure, sure, sure. Yeah, no, yeah. Let's say I'm the one that did it. You come to kill me. And I don't know, let's say my brother's here with me. My brother knows nothing about you, nothing about what I did. He just sees a guy come and kill his brother. Now he is not wrong for going, well, I'm going to kill Brad. And so now you start to see where it goes tit for tat because
exactly.
it's not a uniform principled system where you have a judge and law enforcement and you go, this man did this man did that. It's not going to be vigilante justice. You're going to go
Yep.
to jail. Instead, you start to have this where my brother goes, who the fuck is Brad? He killed I'm going to kill you. And then your brother goes, who's that guy? Tommy's brother? Okay, and then maybe he misses and hits my mom. And then my dad's like,
Right.
I'm going to kill your whole family. Now, and guess what? None of those venge killings are necessarily wrong, but it could all be offset with
By justice.
and that's where it
True
goes.
justice. Yeah.
So the point is now tie that back to the financial system, and the rest of that makes sense.
Well, this is it. And I think in closing, the way in
Yeah,
which I would
I
say,
gotta let you run.
yeah, but what I would say is it's very simple. You can't act as though like, oh, we can't possibly prosecute a senator. Why not?
Why not?
But what? Why do they put their pants on differently than you and I? No. So this fact that somehow they're above us is a joke. They should be held to a higher standard. So I think this is the problem we have, and until we get justice on all these issues of who tried to kill Charlie, who killed Charlie Kirk, who tried to kill the president, um, this Epstein fiasco, um, who the fuck hired this black guy in? You got to read this about this guy,
The
the,
superintendent.
the superintendent for the whole public school system in Iowa. I mean, when is it going to end? When are we going to get to the facts and get some justice so people can say, wow, you guys did a great job. You followed that lead and you followed it up, and this person's going to pay justice. Because one, it sets a precedent, and two, like we said before, it's a deterrent. And it's justice.
We'll wrap it with the quote: "Change before you have to." That's
Exactly.
change before you have to. Start losing weight before you get to the point where the doctor's like, if you don't, you're gonna die.
Yeah. And
Change the judicial system before you have to because it has devolved.
yes, exactly. And I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with these cases of this superintendent and Epstein and Kirk's killer and who tried to kill the president. I'm flabbergasted. We don't know.
Same. Um, but for everybody listening, well, it's not live, but the link to your book is in the description. Dude, on a side note, and I know we gotta let you go. I'd love to have you back on again. Just, I mean, the first two times were about your book. This time we kind of went in talking about fine. I'm down to have you on and just shoot the shit, dude. This is what a lot of my shows are. We don't stick to a topic at all. We just wing it.
Well, you want to address things that are sort of relevant to your audience. Number one,
Sure,
obviously, we don't want to talk about baking cookies here
sure.
because that's not relevant. But understanding what's around us today and how things affect us, not
Yeah,
not just from our own perspective, but from maybe the masses, maybe the students or politicians or law enforcement or whatever. So I think there's a lot of things we can cover, and yeah, be happy to get back on your show.
absolutely. Dude, I appreciate your time as always. You're a cool guy. And guys, I really cannot recommend this book. Go read Lucifer's Banker. Aside from being cool and sexy, it is inspiring. You did the right thing, and I think we do need more of that in this world. So, Mr. Bradley Birkenfeld, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, guys. Take
Guys,
care.